answer has come there, none. Let me go to Chris Leslie. So we now know if we vote Labour, we'll be adding £90 billion to the national debt. It's already 1.5 trillion, and you're going to add almost another 100 billion to it by 1920. Why?
Well, I dispute those figures. I don't believe that they're accurate, and I'll explain why that is. The Institute for Fiscal Studies, I think, have set out that the Conservatives would make more extreme cuts than any other political party, but certainly than us. That would have big damages.
To the national debt.
But what they do say is that we set out a fuller description, that's their words, of our plans for the future. And you heard Gemma Tetlow earlier on talking about how our sums add up.
Well, and the consequence is national debt 90 billion higher
yeah, I was coming to
than
that.
it is.
Now there is an error in the IFS's factual analysis, and it's this. They've made an assessment that the limit of our ambitions is to get the current budget into balance. Actually, and we say this on page 1 of our manifesto, we want to get the current budget into surplus, and of course that surplus is contingent very much on what happens in the economy, whether we can tackle this low wage culture that the Conservatives have fostered. That is really crucial, because that action on living standards, tackling the cost of living, does have an effect on the public finances.
Hold on, you're telling me that not only are you going to balance the current budget, you're going to get it into substantial surplus, because it would need to be substantial to counteract the amount you're going to borrow to invest. And you can do all that without cutting these budgets, without cutting these departments?
Let me walk you through this then. The fiscal rule that we have is to get the current budget not just into balance but also into surplus as soon as possible in the next Parliament. Now that means what the public want to know is, can you get rid of the budget deficit by 2020? Yes, that is our plan. In fact, the IFS confirmed today that on our plans, debt and deficit will be down to, as we say, and the debt will start falling. Now the question is that surplus? But
hold on, you could still be running a deficit by 2020 on the IMF figures. They say up to 1.4% of GDP, so you would still be adding to the debt. And I want to know if you're going to run a surplus. You say you're clear. So let's be clear. If you're going to run a surplus, how big a surplus are you aiming for, and when will you hit that surplus? If you can't answer that, then your position is meaningless.
Well, we do, I think, have an ambition to do more than just balance the current budget. But the surplus is contingent. It depends on what happens with the economy. I mean, this is a big philosophical difference, Andrew. You know this, between us and the Conservatives. They look at public finances as though it's somehow separate from the economy. It doesn't matter what goes on with growth or with wages. We take a different view. Active government can have an effect on the economy, and in turn can have a positive effect on the public finances.
So you just hope to, I mean, the Tories have a magic money tree, and you have a magic tax tree that's going to produce all this extra tax revenue from a growing economy.
No, we've got the proof, because we've seen what happens when a government neglects the cost of living. They end up with £200 billion more of borrowing than they said they were going to do. They've had their chance with their strategy, which was just to deal with the deficit through cuts alone. It's failed. We've now got the opportunity, I think, in the next Parliament to balance the books, but not just have a current budget into balance, but get it into surplus.
I'm not going to let you get away, as I don't with the Tories, with these propaganda figures. You're not balancing the books. You're only trying to balance part of the books.
The current budget is absolutely...
So that's not the books, that's a bit of the books. But I want to hear you from on this. Are you seriously saying to me that you could move to a substantial surplus on current spending, on the current budget, simply by a growing economy and more tax revenues? Is that what you're saying?
I think we can, and I think we can do it. But what I'm not going to do is make false promises.
Okay, well, let me ask you this: because you've answered that, you say it's going to be done on tax revenue, so you don't have to go through any cuts. It's not what the IFS says.
No, that's not what I said. I didn't say we didn't have to go through cuts.
No,
we do have to make some
a surplus. Well, let me ask you this:
it's very difficult to.
What tax buoyancy is already assumed in the OBR projections between now and 2020? How much are they assuming that tax will rise?
Oh, you're right to say they have a particular view on the trend rate of growth.
How much?
Our ambition is to change that trend rate of growth and to make sure that we deliver an economy that does bring in those revenues. And as I say, this is a philosophical difference between us and the Conservatives.
But I'm trying to work out how much. Let me tell you, since you don't know. The IFS, the OBR assumes that by 2020, per capita, the British people will be paying £2,000 a head more in tax. Now, obviously, children don't pay the tax. Richer people will pay more, poorer less. But on average, it's an extra £2,000 simply from a growing economy, not from any extra tax rises. So for your figures to work, how much extra tax revenue above £2,000 per head will you get?
We have been prepared to talk about fairer taxes for those at the top.
Oh, not again.
Well, once again, that's the second Labour politician the plug is pulled on. OK, well, I just have to finish, and I apologise for that, viewers. There seems to be a habit here. It's like being in an episode of In the Thick of It, isn't it, when they pull the plug when it's going wrong.